Hey guys, it's Catherine from Moonstarlodge. Welcome. This is a video. I'm not exactly sure whether it will appear in 2021 or the beginning of 2022, but it's a lot to do with visioning. So I'm hoping that we can get it up to YouTube before New Year's Day. And this is a kind of a ramble, and there's some decks I'm going to show, and it's just a lot of little things that when I am nudged by spirit to go into one of these videos, I'm usually giving information that's useful, if that makes sense. I've been getting questions about my mysterious black folder that I've carried around for years and what's in it. So these are the things I'm going to show you what's in it, because it's really important that you understand that my process of connecting with spiritual entities, be they guides, teachers, angels, ascended masters, the creator, whatever, is all part of my daily walk. So these sheets have come out of this black folio, and so in the order that they came out, the moon cycles for 2022, which if you still want a copy of that, email me, but please don't put your email in the comments section. Private message me or email me at home. This is the 2021, which I'm just about to file because we're filming this on December 27th. So this actually we go into fourth quarter, or we went into fourth quarter yesterday, Boxing Day, the 26th. So I won't be needing this much longer. So that's the two moon cycles. Everything we do is organized by the moon cycles, whether I'm working on a wedding, a naming ceremony, some kind of other ceremony, equinoxes, solstices, it's all there. Then my beloved charts. Now this is one of about 6 charts of chakric correspondences, moon cycles, everything you'd want to know. Here's the medicine wheel that I often use in these videos. So we've just come from, this is solstice, where the black meets the white, and we're moving into, if this was a perfect year, this would be the first moon cycle. The first moon cycle doesn't happen actually till January 2nd, so there's a gap between winter solstice and talks with relations. And that's an important part of what this video is about. This is a time of visioning with the new year, and so our vision boards, if you want to use the modern term, our dream time requires us to really sit down with the cycles to know ahead what's coming, where things fall on the wheel. Anyway, we'll get into that. This is a sheet of apparitions that comes from my psychospiritual channeling psychic development class. This is a sheet about shamanism, about the movement between all that we know and see into the tonal, all that is manifestable. This one silly sheet of paper defines my entire career as a shaman. Then I have a playboard done for tarot spreads, and there's a tarot spread of the medicine wheel outlined on it. And I'm surprised this was down as far as it was in my notes, but it's the medicine wheel of the 13 clan grandmothers. And I refer to this monthly in these videos. Another way which I visually look at the wheel, because as an artist I'm a visual person, are the moon cycles in this way. And I can actually lay down some of my very small miniature cards. This is 2 different versions of a similar wheel. So this is the back of a turtle shell, And so I have two versions. They say similar things, but they're definitely different. Just gives my head a different space to come from, much more right-brained. And the last thing is a free download, actually, I got from Gillian C. Wilde, the author of the Naked Tarot and the Antiquities of Magic. It's a form of playboard, and it's actually divided up into small sections, and you can lay cards literally on it. Here's an example of a play sheet. So you can use it like a play cloth. I actually have that because the Naked Heart Tarot is one of my most favorite decks in my collection. That is pushing 1,200 decks. So now I'm going to lay out some cards that I want to review, but I will do that in a moment. This is off the cuff, so you're getting me kind of off the cuff in stream of consciousness. I showed you that because in this week between Christmas and New Year's, I am really deeply connected with dreaming with the wheel. We are now officially, as I said, as of Boxing Day, in this fourth quarter of Becomes Her Vision, which is the 13th clan mother or grandmother moon cycle. And Becoming My Vision was looking at everything I created up to that 13th moon cycle. But the fourth quarter, whether you're gardening or making medicines, we never plant anything in the fourth quarter of a moon cycle. We deadhead, we weed, we remove stumps, we till the soil, we just don't do anything to create life. It's about letting go, like a garden doesn't need its weeds, or limbing a tree that's got suckers growing off of it. We just don't want to have things that are siphoning our energy, and we want to get rid of that which no longer serves us. So that's what the fourth quarter of Becomes Her Vision is. Getting rid of those things from the past 13 moon cycles that no longer serve us and would keep us from focusing 100% of our energy toward the next 13 moon cycles. So the new moon falls on January 2nd. So that's talks with relations. And as I mentioned, in a perfect world, that would have fallen on winter solstice. But it's not. It's not falling this year until January 2nd. So this time between solstice and this new moon for me has been pivotal in really sitting down and soul searching what it is I want as I approach my 65th birthday, as I look at where I am with my time in my career, what this means for me as a medicine person and as a shaman, what this means in terms of my family, my partner. So I'm really doing what would be creatively, like Colette Baron Reed is having a 6 or 7 day vision board workshop where you come together, you know, over those days and you work out a vision board in the modern sense of it. I'm dreaming with the wheel, but I'm using all these papers I just showed you to help me assess at a different level than, you know, I'm still working with Brian about what's the next meal going to be, and is it the day to do the laundry, and all those things that exist in this dimension. But I'm really beginning to manifest for the next dimension. So this past week on the Instagram short videos, to just cover a couple days, I've been using a couple of decks, and I'm going to just go from that into some of the decks that I think I'm going to spend a lot of 2022 with. So we can go to the decks, Brian. So this past week, I've used the Dream Keeper's Tarot. I'm having a collapse off to the side here, so just excuse me while I correct the collapse, because I want to use those cards in a few minutes. So this is the Dream Keeper's Tarot by Liz Houston, and it is almost shocking, actually, in its visuals. You really have to sit and look at these cards. So I paired it up with the Vintage Wisdom Oracle because a lot of the iconography in here was similar. But here are examples of this is the Knight of Swords. This is the Nine of Swords. Very ethereal. Looks like it comes out of an old horror movie. Ace of Wands. The Page of Wands. And you have to look at the details to see. Some of these have some quite grotesque images. The Chariot. The Knight of Pentacles. The Queen of Wands. Page of Swords, Three of Swords, the head is right off the figure, completely gone. The Devil, the King of Cups has no head. Knight of Wands. Knight of Wands has 3 legs, I believe. So there's all kinds of things. You really have to stare at these cards to recognize what's different. Here's the Ten of Swords. She's lying on the swords. 10 of Pentacles, pretty easy. And so on. So these are really thought-provoking cards by Liz Houston. So just looking at the front here, the dress, which has become the skeleton of a fish here. Very, very, very curious. And I paired them up with the Vintage Wisdom Oracle. I won't go into that because I've used it before, and the cards are very beautiful. The author found these actual cards and then did some work with them by taking them into her computer and augmenting or changing the photos a little bit. But these were from actual cards, old postcards that she found on trips. Now, one of the fun decks that I got this week past was the Yarn Tarot. It came in, or comes in, this beautiful slip sleeve box, and so the cards be in here. Sorry for the noise. The little book, which is an actual stitch bound book, and then the box goes this way, so it sits on your shelf. There's the bottom. So at least it's got thumb tabs on the side here for these hands to get out. And I was delighted, absolutely delighted. This is a hardbound little book, stitched together. It has color images in it, and for the size of the book, it has a fair bit of information, particularly with the major arcana. What's fun for me, you have to, again, really look at the images. Here's the Fool. The Fool is wearing a lovely rib-necked sweater. They've got yarn in the bag, and the dog has a sweater. So there you go. I think I'm getting the signal to push these up. The Magician has a ball of yarn and the tools of the suits. Pentacles is a weaving. Cups are a spindle whorl. We've got crochet hooks and we've got knitting needles for wands and swords. So here's the Magician complete. I'll just turn these over. The Magician is wearing a lovely scarf, actually. The High Priestess is holding a ball of yarn and is completely covered in knitting. Still has the pillars from the Temple of Solomon. The moon is still here. The proper, like there's the triple moon on her head here, on her little fashionable skull cap. The Empress is completely, now she's not a pregnant Empress as far as I can tell, but she's wearing a lovely knitted hat and a very long knitted coat and has a bag of yarn, sitting in the sun doing her thing. The Emperor, again, holding a ball of yarn, has lovely, probably mohair goats, and a hat. It's actually a toque with a ball on top. The Hierophant, the same thing. So you get the gist of this. Everybody here, I can pick any. Here's the Page of Cups, walking along with his spindle whorl, which is the sign of the cups, and he's got a hat and a scarf. The Death card seems to have a lovely knitted hood. The horse isn't wearing knitting. Here's Temperance with her spindle whorls, making things even. The Devil, I'm not sure what the knitting is here. Oh, it's a tapestry. Okay, so here we are. You know, we've got all these beautiful symbols. The Star, she's dipping balls of yarn. I guess she must have just dyed them. Fabulous, lots of fun. Here's the Eight of Cups. This is a pip deck, so you can see that it's got some fabulous imagery in it. Here's the Two of Swords. So instead of the lady with the mask sitting on the seashore, it's two giant swords or needles, knitting needles, sticking into this ball of yarn. The Knight of Swords has a lovely shawl on. The Queen of Swords is sitting on the throne with her bag of knitting and a toque. You get the idea. Anyway, I paired this deck, which, oh, even the world is surrounded by balls of yarn instead of a wreath. So that's that deck. Excuse me while I shuffle things around. I paired that deck with a deck I received from a Kickstarter recently. So this is an oracle. The oracle is, let me get it out of the bag. I brought the whole bag and ensemble so you could see the goodies that were sent by the Kickstarter, by the author through Kickstarter. So, lovely knitting paper here, symbols of stitchery. This is a planchette from a Ouija board with needles and thread on it. I thought that was very clever. She sent a beautiful picture. It's still in plastic because I haven't got a frame for it. Mend what's torn. But you can see a lot of the symbols here. The deck is called the Stitcher's Oracle. And there's no book because she's very careful, you know, not to impose. She wants it to be intuitive. It came with this beautiful card, like a postcard, and then a bag full of stickers and mini cards, and then of course it's the oracle itself. So I think I moved the box very quickly. It's the Stitcher's Oracle. Nice little two-part box. And it does have a quick start guide. These are the backs of the cards. Again, all stitching, knitting. There's scissors, knitting needles, crochet hooks, and what have you. And then it's quite a number of cards and you read into it what you pull. So this is thread, this is knitting needles, hand with needle and thread, full bobbins, pins, thread. I've had a few of those because, well, gosh darn it, I have cats. Bodkins, knitting, that sort of thing. So making a steek, dropped stitch, lancing needles, beautiful little, like the stork scissors I have. So, you know, this is reminiscent to me of the Three of Swords. There's the planchette that we saw the pin of, and so on. So lots of little cards here, lots and lots of cards in this oracle. So I paired it up with the yarn oracle. Is this just frivolous? Well, maybe, but it allows for me the opportunity to do what I love. And any of you who've been here to the studio know that I've had a lifetime of all of these arts. I don't weave anymore, but the crocheting, the knitting, the sewing, the quilting, all of that stuff is still very important to me. And I will put this print up in due course. Okay. Lots of people are interested in the Moonology Manifestation decks. So here is the original Moonology Oracle cards by Yasmin Boland, who is an astrologer that's a little bit different than the usual ones that are solar astrology. She's really into the moon cycles. She does do solar astrology, of course, but she gives a heavy emphasis to the moon. And so for me, as an indigenous person plotting things, I want that information. For those of you with pagan and Wiccan beliefs that follow along these cycles, this would be important. Now, these have been really popular. I brought in some into the studio, and I wanted to show people that they are different decks. Do not be confused. This is the newest deck, the Manifestation deck, and this is the original Moonology deck from like 2017, I believe. So the cards look different. They're both Hay House publications, and so the booklet's the same, the deck is the same size, but these are giving you some different information on information about what happens. So you're using them as an oracle. This is the original one, and you're getting just pictures here of planets and moons, okay? And that's one of the differences. There are, I believe, planets in here. And this one, which has more color to it, is strictly new moon, first quarter, full moon, and last quarter. So you've got 48 cards, so that's really an important thing. There are differences in the number of cards, differences in the information you're getting. For me, I like to use them together. I don't feel like I'm explaining these differences very well. You aren't getting the same information from both decks, so you can feel free. I find that they are better worked with together even than individually. So just know that you can get these from Yasmin off her site. You can get them from Hay House. I've got a few left if you're interested. And if you have the older deck, I would bet my dog that you will enjoy using them, because this is about manifesting. This is about using them proactively to co-create with the universe. So they are two very different versions of the deck. Now, this next thing is a set of astro cards. So these are astrological cards that I just showed you, the Moonology sisters there. This is by Ruby Warrington with Bess Matassa. Ruby Warrington is the founder of the Numinous, and you'll see the script here. This is the Numinous Astro deck. This is the Numinous Tarot Guide. This is with Rashunda Tramble. So they're published by different publishing houses, I've noticed. All right. So this is a Sterling Ethos imprint, and this is octopusbooks.com. This was not expensive. It was around $20. This was not expensive. I find the cover a little off-putting, but it has a very good guidebook. I've had this for a while. I don't like decks that I have to split into two piles, but you've got very different information. So you've got more like this. What are conjunctions, oppositions, syncunx, semi-sextiles. So this is teaching you more standard astrology. This gives you the astrology signs like Aries, Libra, Scorpio, Pisces. So this is giving you more general astrological information. And this is the houses, the first house through the 12th house. And parts you'll find on your chart. The ascendant, Chiron, Jupiter, the moon, north node, that sort of thing. Sure, you can do divination with this. That's not a problem. What I found it was really helpful. I have a number of astrology programs, and I have utilized them to create lots of astrological charts for people and family and myself. And how I've studied it, my own chart, I've taken cards like these and the information from the book, and I've looked at where my own information is on my astrological chart, and I've allowed myself then to get information on that, particularly things like Chiron, which is healing. And you can go to astro.com, which is Astrodienst, which I believe is in Holland originally. And you can do your own chart for free, and you can do a number of kinds of charts, like the progressed moon. The progressed moon is a situation where the moon sits in a particular sign for about 2.5 years. Mine just moved from Cancer into Leo, so it's changed how I feel about my work in the world, even though we've had a pandemic. The other thing that came from the Numinous group, and this is a group of writers, is the Tarot Guide. And again, I just got this week, and I knew it was for me when I opened it. Again, I think it cost me $19 or $20 on Amazon. So this is about each and every tarot card based on a Rider-Waite-Smith deck, which most people are familiar with. But this is very different than most of my research books. It gives you an introduction to each of the cards, and it gives you what they mean. But the first page for each card is a modern expression. It takes thinking about the tarot very differently. I'm just going to read this to you. You can flip the camera, Brian. The High Priestess. So this is what it's giving you, a scenario. It's not a description of the card. You're mysterious and grandmotherly. The kids in the neighborhood call you the Oracle after the character in the Matrix movie series. She was the mysterious soul who served as a counselor of sorts to Neo, also known as the One, played by Keanu Reeves, and gave him guidance on how to battle the Matrix. Just like the Oracle, you enjoy baking, smoking cigarettes, and dishing out prophecy. You're a combination of opposites embodying a duality. While motherly and caring, you also enjoy making people uncomfortable, especially the young folks who pass by and pay their respects as you hold court on the front porch. For example, you question their choice of music as it booms from their cars. You ask if they really know the meaning of the lyrics. But you do it not to be a grump, but for the sake of helping them grow, to become aware. Your job is to unbalance the matrix in order to break a cycle. So it goes from a contemporary perspective on a card or a scenario to the description, but then the real value of this is journal prompts. I knew when I just randomly opened two different cards. Here's the Six of Swords. Your neighborhood is your lifeblood. The people, the spirit of community, and the history are all part of your DNA, or at least they were. The neighborhood is changing. It's losing its soul to gentrification. Gone is the local grocers, one of the few places in walking distance where you could get fresh fruits and vegetables. In its place is an extremely hip and expensive coffee shop. The people who lived there when you were growing up, mostly low to middle income folks who worked hard for what they had, have moved away or died. Their once affordable flats have been transformed into living spaces pulled straight from magazine spreads or styled social media posts. You returned to your childhood home after your parents passed away because you wanted to bring back what you've learned during your travels and use it to help your neighbors. But the neighbors you once knew are gone, and no one wants your help. Perhaps it's time to move on. Some of these really jarred me, and I thought, ooh, do I send this back? And then I realized, no, if it bothers me, then I need to follow through. That's the contemporary scenario of the card. Then there's the historic scenario of the card, which is what we're used to reading in guidebooks, and the journal prompts. I was blown away. So it's a good $20 investment if you feel like or enjoy journaling. I do. I journal every day. And I have a separate tarot journal from my life journal. Perhaps it shouldn't be a separate journal. But I'm much more art-oriented, and my bed full of art supplies with a puppy is not a happy thing. But I digress. All right, so let's go back to the cards, Brian. This is going to be a flipping all over the place. This was a bit of a, pardon the language, but a shit show journey to get me here. This is by, it's called The Land Back Tarot by Auntie Kay. She's an indigenous mother of 6 who calls herself queer and is very vocal about reducing the impact of colonization on indigenous people. It's the most political deck I own, period. She makes a point on the back of the box of saying, the Land Back Tarot and the Oracle of Colonization is indigenous, brown, and gender neutral. This deck presents classic RWS understandings from a radical, decolonial perspective, looking towards indigenous futures of autonomy, freedom, and land back. The Fool's journey is decolonial, laying out realities and lives for marginalized and colonized readers and querents. The Oracle of Colonization looks at the shadows, adding that extra needed healing for lives under colonialism. Together, this deck is for everyone looking for anti-colonial decentering of realities. We're just having a puppy moment. That's what these wacky videos are for. So, this was written by Krista Damour Flute, supported by Emma Cardinal Bast, and it was, I think, Cardinal Traditions that I got this from in London, Ontario. It's 78 cards, plus 25 Oracle, all in one box. And the suits are different. Let me give you an overview of the suit. I'm trying to go to the, here we go. So it's well laid out in the table of contents. The major arcana represents spirit. The arrows are wands, which is fire. The suit of cups is water. So far we're not too bad. Arrows, cups, weapons are swords, and drums are earth. And the Oracle of Colonization is called the Shadow Arcana. So it's used all together. So we have cups, weapons, drums, and arrows. Some of the imagery is quite intense. There's the Fool in their moccasins stepping out on a journey. The first card, instead of the Magician, is the Elder. Then the Healer. Today's Future. Yesterday's Foundation. Charlatan. And this is the position of the Hierophant. Here's the Lovers. Okay. The Chariot. Strength. And this is an image of an indigenous warrior against the police. Some of these cards represent the Oka uprising. Some of them represent the taking back of land by the Caledon Six Nations folk. So a lot of these cards have people, but again, it's gender neutral. Here's the Wheel. What would be the Wheel is called the Mirror, and so on. There's a Justice card. This is a reference to residential school. This is Dead. Dead time. So that's prison. This is Death, which is represented by the owl. Temperance. The Devil. The Devil is another reference to residential school. It's a priest being choked into surrender. The Tower. This is a card of Canada, Mexico, and the United States. This is money falling out of the tower. And it's the breakdown of the colonial governmental system that is oppressing indigenous people. I won't go through all of the cards, but I want to say that there are, so here's the Ten of Drums, beautiful card, just to give you some minors, and so forth. very political deck, and Jenny wanted a set, and I wanted a set because I'm not as vocally political. Auntie Kay has a clarity that I wish I had. You can flip the camera, Brian. She and I are different generations in the Indigenous world, and so I am proud of the fact that they can speak up and not be sentimental and not have any qualms about speaking their piece. I tend to not speak out, perhaps, when I should. So this is something that I'm going to use and learn with. It's certainly not a deck that I'm going to use with individuals who are not part of the Indigenous community, because it's not going to mean as much to them, and it's not the kind of reading most people would be looking for. If you want to support Auntie Kay, there are just a few decks left at the place where I bought them. It's not inexpensive, but you're getting an oracle and a tarot. Just saying, if you wish to add that to your collection. If you're a collector, it's certainly worth having. True Indigenous pieces are few and far between in terms of decks. I have one called the Gentle Tarot coming from an Alaskan native, and I may pick up the Desert Tarot yet in my walk. Gotta gather some pennies for that one. I hope you've enjoyed the decks that I've shown you today and the reference book. I rarely buy reference books anymore because I have this one makes 123 in a collection of, well, nearly 50 years in the making. So that's not a lot of reference books. A lot of the books I have are very old spiritualist tradition books that you can't get anymore. I've just happened to find them in places. As contemporary reference books, I tend to go with scholarly folks because I want some of the background that I find has been sort of deleted. It's not sort of deleted, it has been, or it's been watered down, diffused. I want to know. I'm one of those minds. I'm like a sponge. I have to have the information. So I want to know what the true source of a symbol in a card is, or if the card is missing the symbol, what happened, why. Anyway, this is a bit of a mishmash video, but I hope you like it, and I hope it gives you something to think about during this time as we prepare for the visioning, the manifesting in 2022. Brian and I both share the gift of love and compassion. We appreciate your support. When you subscribe and even just like a video, leave a comment, that helps Google and us know that you want to see more. We appreciate donations. We're coming to a decision point after almost 2 years of doing this, whether we can continue to do this or not, because it's all, you know, been from our resources. Anyway, I welcome your questions, I welcome your comments, and if there are other kinds and types of decks that you'd like me to review or show you, I'm happy to do so. So have a wonderful New Year's and dreaming time with Talks with Relations. Aho.